Hello, Professor Rott here. This is our second lab in a series of labs that we have this semester. This one is called 7-Step Paragraph. In Lab 1, we learned how to cite sources using in-text citations in our essays. Today, we'll go a step further and learn 7 steps to creating an academic paragraph that introduces sources in a thoughtful manner. For papers in college classes, you need to offer quotations from reputable sources to support the claims that you make in your essays. A paragraph is a unit of thought within an essay. Essays typically begin with an introductory paragraph, and end with a concluding paragraph. In between the introduction and the conclusion are body paragraphs. Each body paragraph offers a new point and source that support the thesis or overall claim of the essay. Because we should never allow a quotation to speak for itself, we must clearly make a point about each quote that we use. Paragraphs that discuss quotations need to offer a worthwhile explanation of the quotation and why we're using it. So the following is a basic 7-step formula for a paragraph that presents and analyzes a quotation in an academic manner. While you may vary the formula, try to include the following elements in your paragraph. Number 1, a topic sentence that tells the main point you'll make in the paragraph. 2, some background about the author's credentials, as well as an overview of the source to illustrate the reliability of the author and the source. 3, an explanation of the author's specific argument that relates to the quotation you'll be citing. Step 4, the quotation itself, preceded by a signal phrase with quotation marks and a parenthetical page citation. You should provide enough of the quote that it makes sense, but don't put in more than you can discuss. 1 or 2 sentences is generally a good quote length. Number 5 is a restatement of the quote in your own words, paraphrasing, right after you present it to make sure readers understand the quotation in the same way you understand it. Number 6, the final few sentences of your paragraph should explain your point about the quotation in more detail and why you draw that conclusion about the quotation. Your final sentence should remind readers of your paragraph's main point. It may look similar to your first sentence of the 7-step paragraph. So let's look at an example of a paragraph using this 7-step model. 1, electing and then re-electing Barack Obama as president is further evidence that racism is no longer a significant issue in America. Voters in the United States went against the norm and voted for a black man, one whom they thought would make the best president. Even though a lot of people were not happy that Obama was elected, having him as president helped move toward a post-racial America. President Obama had many accomplishments throughout his 8-year term as president. That's the first step, offering a key idea, a main claim here that is probably supporting the thesis that racism is not a thing of the past. Number 2, the respected news agency, BBC News, conducted an in-depth review of Obama's accomplishments. Notice this sentence, number 2, introduces the source generally, BBC News, and it tells us that what we're about to cite is an in-depth review of Obama's accomplishments. Number 3 is a more specific discussion of the point being made before we actually quote. Number 3 reads, in one part of their analysis, the news agency focused on the success of controversial legislation passed during the Obama administration. Number 4 in the 7th step is always going to be the quotation itself, or if you're not quoting, it would be a paraphrase. BBC News reports, comma, quote, the Affordable Health Care Act, or Obamacare as it was inevitably dubbed, reduced the Black uninsured rate by a third, end quote, and then we see the name Bryant. This is our in-text citation. We don't have a page number, so we don't use a page here, but we do use the author's last name. Number 5, if you recall from the 7 steps, is a paraphrase, a restatement in your own words of what we just read in the quote. So number 5 here reads, this statement illustrates how Obama's legislation associated with insurance helped thousands of African Americans and people of color to gain insurance regardless of their race or the color of their skin, what the color of their skin was. Number 6 is a little bit more in-depth, and this is where you have an opportunity to really drive home your point and tell us why it's important that this quotation supports your claim. Number 6 reads, President Obama had 2 successful terms where he was able to accomplish multiple agendas to help abolish racism in America. And finally, number 7 is a restatement. If America continues to accept and support everyone regardless of race, then racism will soon be a thing of the past, like slavery and laws against same-sex marriage. It is important to note that this type of paragraph appears in the body of academic essays. As you might expect, essays should begin with an introduction, whose last sentence is a thesis statement, which is the overall claim of the essay. After the introductory paragraph and thesis, you may then use 7-step paragraphs to make your argument in the body of the essay. And of course, we would then conclude with a concluding paragraph. In most cases, you'll need at least 3 body paragraphs. Your final paragraph is the conclusion where you summarize the essay's main idea or argument. In our next lab, Lab 3, we will examine academic language and why it is important to use this type of language when writing academic essays. This presentation is now concluded. Most students will now go over and take the quiz associated with Lab 2. So good luck on the quiz. Okay, see you next time.